Catwoman. We all have our favourites who have slinked their way in the catsuit, from comic book to television to film, and yet, what do we really know about her? Like, really know? Does this stray have any family? Have any actresses appeared in more than one live-action film as Catwoman? And while we're at it, how many actresses in all have actually played Catwoman? That number will surprise you. So, grab a file to sharpen those kitty claws with and practice your whip work as we head on over to the dark side of Gotham and sidle up to this feline fatale. The Kitkat Club. It's said that a cat has 9 lives, but to date, 10 actresses have either purred or scratched their way through notable live-action versions of the role. But before you break out the catnip and give yourself a good back scratch for correctly guessing the right number, remember that the question was a bit broader in scope. When you take into account all of the animated spin-offs, podcasts and games, that number is much higher. I'll give you a full breakdown along with the answer to how many actresses have appeared in more than one film as Catwoman at the end of this video.
Whoopee! Look, Miss Julie Newmar has been watching silently over this entire conversation. And look at her vintage Miss Julie. She is the perfect, the ultimate... Oh, try to describe her and not use the word statuesque. Oh, Miss Julie, you are statuesque, and you were the only Catwoman.
Julie Newmar was the first Catwoman. She often tops the list of performances, and she didn't even have to go through the nerve-wracking audition process that later actresses would have to endure. Standing 5'11" and with a 22-inch waist, she already looked the part. She started out in film as a dancer, but was told that she stood out too much. Perhaps being painted gold had something to do with it. She then worked on Broadway, winning herself a Tony Award in 1959 for The Marriage Go Round. She also made numerous appearances on television during these years, and just before starting on Batman in 1966, she was nominated for a Golden Globe for My Living Doll, a bizarre precursor to something like The Stepford Wives, in which a psychiatrist is asked to care for an android who has been trained to be the perfect woman. Good luck remaking that one today, CBS. During filming of the first season of Batman, Julie committed to a film being shot in England called Monsieur Lecoq, starring opposite Zero Mostel. Intended as a Pink Panther-style comedy, but sexier, it unfortunately was never released. Her commitment to this was made more unfortunate because it meant that she was therefore unavailable to reprise her role in the Batman spin-off movie that was to be filmed between seasons 1 and 2. The role of Catwoman instead went to Lee Merriweather. Lee was named Miss America in 1955, and no, that's not a character from the Marvel Universe, though she does have a connection there as she was a former classmate of the Incredible Hulk's Bill Bixby. Julie returned for season 2, but sadly then chose to leave the series to make another film. She was replaced for the third and final season by Eartha Kitt, who already had a long career as a singer. She was also a natural for the part and even preempted the Catwoman style in her appearance on a Swedish TV show called Cascade in 1962.
I want to spit tax. I want to be evil and cheat at jacks. I want to be wicked. I want to tell lies.
During the 1970s, there was only one appearance of the cat. That was by Sophia Moran in the bizarre 1972 Filipino comedy titled Batwoman and Robin. As it's an unauthorized use of the character though, tisk tisk, it therefore doesn't make this list. Let's move on 20 years now to 1992, and you know that actress who was in... oh, what was her name?
Meow.
Oh, thank you. Yes, enter Michelle Pfeiffer, a last-minute replacement for Annette Bening, who had been cast as Tim Burton's Catwoman in Batman Returns, but had to drop out due to her pregnancy. This kitty was scripted to die at the end of the film, but test audiences, as well as Warner Bros. Execs, were uncomfortable with that fate for the cat, and so miraculously, she survives to see another day. She is a cat after all. And by the way, that's not really Michelle Pfeiffer in the final shot from the film. It's a stand-in, as Michelle wasn't available when they decided to shoot the changed ending. Catwoman does die, and this time has a daughter with Batman. So yes, this stray does have a family in the 2002 short-lived TV series, Birds of Prey. Blink and you'll miss seeing Casey Eastlick in the catsuit for this one, as she only appears for a total of 27 seconds, half of that time laying flat on her back dead. 2 years later, however, Catwoman has the big screen all to herself, in superhero terms literally, as there's no Batman to be seen anywhere. And hey, this isn't even Gotham. But it's still Selina Kyle, right? No, this cat is named Patience Phillips. And what's with that outfit, Halle Berry? Love it or hate it, yes, it's 2004's Catwoman. Keeping track of numbers, are you? Lucky number 7 goes out to Anne Hathaway, who beat out numerous actresses including Jessica Biel,
Catwoman,
who'd been warming up for the role ever since 2007's I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. This Selina Kyle is regarded as being the truest informed to the original comic book creation of Bob Kane, that Catwoman being a jewel thief born of correctional institutions and a dysfunctional home. She's also never referred to with the moniker Catwoman, but it's instead called simply the Cat. We then see a young Selina, played by Cameron Bicondova, in Gotham, and for its 5th and final season, in the last episode, and played by Lily Simmons, we see Selina 10 years later. And finally, Catwoman number 10, the wonderful Zoë Kravitz, who had already lent her voice to Catwoman in 2017's The Lego Batman movie.
Catwoman.
You're in.
Although she's not called Catwoman, this is clearly a Catwoman in the making. She also brings the sexuality back to the part that we haven't seen since Michelle Pfeiffer. And her catsuit is much more believable in this Year One-esque Batman verse, which brings us on to Catty Couture. In the very first appearance of the Batman comic, spring 1940, Bill Finger and Bob Kane created the Cat in order to add sexuality to the Batman comic and introduce a friendly outlaw enemy of romantic interest in Batman's reasonably sterile life. In this her first appearance, she doesn't wear a costume, but gradually over time, she assembles a wardrobe, until 1954, when she suddenly disappears from the comic and doesn't return until 1966. It was suggested by the New York Post that this is because of the newly introduced comic code, which mandated that women be depicted in dress reasonably acceptable to society. George Michael clearly didn't have to follow any such code when on June 1st, 1992, 18 days before Batman Returns hit US screens, he released his Too Funky music video, in which Julie Newmar can be seen strutting her stuff in a latex catsuit. The previous year, in July 1991, Sean Young, looking more like a Batgirl than a Catwoman, although it could be argued that she was channeling the 1940s look of the Cat, preempted them all with her latex outfit when she appeared on the Joan Rivers show to announce that
I have a message for the director of Batman 2. How dare you not make time to see the Catwoman, not even so much as granting me a meeting. How very rude of you. After all, I was in the original Batman cast.
Now there is a backstory as to why Sean made this public statement, but I'll leave it with a big thumbs up to Sean for being the first Catwoman in latex. Way to go, Sean. Nevertheless, preemptive or not, the world was aghast when Michelle Pfeiffer went one step further and squeezed into the tightest latex catsuit ever seen. According to Mary Vaught, costume designer on Batman Returns, we knew we wanted it to be black and sexy and tight and shiny.
It's chilly in here.
Latex is as black and sexy and tight as you can get, all of which is great for us the viewer, but this meant that in order to get her into the suit, they had to cover Michelle in baby powder first, and bathroom breaks were not a task undertaken lightly. As Michelle most recently pointed out in 2019, when asked on Good Morning America what advice she would give to Zoë Kravitz in undertaking the role, she said,
"Make sure, whilst designing the costume, they consider how you're going to go to the bathroom."
Okay.
And the idea for the stitches? Well, credit goes to Tim Burton for that. Again, according to Mary Vaught, Tim had this vision of the calico cat, with its stitching starting to come apart. Counting kitties.
You got a lot of cats.
I have a thing about strays.
It may surprise you to know that despite Catwoman being such a memorable part of the Batman TV series, of the 120 episodes made, the character only appears in 16 of them, 3 by Eartha Kitt and 13 by Julie Newmar, which equates to roughly 10% of the show. That's a lot of impact for a character who puts in less screen time than Batgirl, who's played by Yvonne Craig and appears in 26 episodes. That's twice as many as Julie. In all, there have been 64 actresses who have lent their voice to Catwoman. But the honor of appearing in more than one Batman film goes to Michelle Pfeiffer, who we all know plays Catwoman in 1992's Batman Returns. But if you weren't catnapping through it, you'll see that she also appears in a photo that Patience Phillips, aka Halle Berry, has in front of her when being told that she's a Catwoman in the 2004 film of the same name. So beat that, other Catwoman.
You're overpaid. Hit the road.
Michelle Pfeiffer is number one for this cat follower, but who's your favorite Catwoman?
Julie Newmar, Michelle Pfeiffer, Eartha Kitt, and then her.
What about Lee Merriweather?
Oh, I forgot about Lee Merriweather.
Well, I'm glad that's settled.
That makes Halle Berry my fifth favorite Catwoman. There's Julie Newmar, Michelle Pfeiffer, Eartha Kitt, Lee Merriweather.
Please, I'm begging you, go to sleep.
I'm trying. I'm counting Catwomen.